Everybody, this is Tony Falk, and you are listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D. That's the shoot, Pally.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
What's up, guys? Live and Color Wolfie D again. We just keep rolling, Jimmy. We just keep rolling.
I know. They say they're going to take us out, but we're here.
Still standing.
Yes.
Oh, man. Dude, as this airs, it will have, been a little bit of old news, but I will have to talk about it, man. And then the whole wrestling world was shocked at Jay Briscoe's crazy. There was circumstances and the kids and like I said, I never worked him, but I did meet him at the TNA show, the pay-per-view, and then the Ric Flair show. I believe I saw him there too. And only time I met him, but cool dudes, man. Both of them. But it's sad, man. Life is short, man. You never know. You can leave the house. Not return.
Yeah, well, anybody that listened to our top 10 tag teams, they know that they're one of my favorite top 10 tag teams. They're definitely one of my favorite current tag teams for sure. And, it was always my dream to see that mythical matchup of PG-13 and the Briscoes. And maybe now we'll just have to wait till the next go around, but it's so sad, man. Doing a fatherly duty, taking his girls to cheerleading practice, chick swerves into his lane, hits him head on, he dies. The girls are living. Now, apparently the girls were in critical condition, but as of right now, it looks like they're doing some better as far as surgeries go. But what's so sad? And I was just thinking about this, so I've had a major surgery. You've had a major surgery. Yeah. Can you imagine waking up to the worst news of your life? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like literally the worst news ever. And the little girls lost their daddy. And I mean, I don't know. You said something to me that day that kind of shook me to my core. Cause I said, man, it's, you never promised tomorrow. He was like, dude, you're never promised the next minute. Oh, and that has just stuck with me. And it's like bounced around in my brain. And I've just thought, man, that's so true. I got to call some people, obviously I stay in touch with you, but I want to, kind of reach out to more people, keep in touch with more people, I
challenge you, if you don't, you or the listeners, my mom always told me this, man. I learned this from my mama.
Yeah.
If it's somebody, a family member that you love, a spouse, a child, even a good friend, man, I hate it when someone of that position, if I see it happen or if it happens to me, always say, I love you. That might be right. You get to tell them that when you leave the house, give them a kiss, tell them you love them.
Yeah.
People that don't do that, I'm sorry, it's just like one of my pet peeves. It's like, God.
Yeah. I hate to leave on a bad note too. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you just got to get away and sometimes it's got to be bad. But even if my wife and I are arguing with one another, as she's, let's just say she's going to work or running an errand or I'm doing that, I still want her to know that I love her. And it's just stuff like that, and he is an example of that. And again, the dude is 35 years old, healthy. He was a rock, he definitely was not someone that you would expect to be gone. And like you said to me that day, you were like, man, you can be gone in a minute. And I just challenge everyone, the listeners out there, if there's somebody out there that you got a gripe with or something out there that you wish you could fix, go ahead and take that first step, because that person may not be there to take that first step. And not only for your health, but it would probably be good for their health as well. Just squash it and go forward with it. But, Jay, what a great talent. I'd still just know that sometime in the world, sometime's going to happen that PG-13 and the Briscoes are going to get to lock it up. Like I said, maybe the next go round, whatever, but.
So, man, rest in peace. I don't know how to end that part. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
we got forward and get to our main man. We don't want this to be a sad show, so we'll get somebody's gonna make us laugh. It is always laugh.
Yes.
Always. And he's one of those people that sometimes he ain't even trying to be funny, but he's hilarious.
I know. Well, go ahead and introduce who he is. You do it best.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no big secret. We put the poster up every week. It's my man Tony Falk
from Paducah, Kentucky. Yeah. Go ahead.
Tony. Yeah, man. Can't wait to do this. This is going to be a riot.
I know. He is just so. He's been everywhere. He's done everything. Yeah. I say it every week. This guy's been everywhere. He's wrestled here, nada here. But Tony, man, he's got a story for everybody, and
a time and a date on it.
I know, and that's impressive too.
Talk about how Randy's like that, but Randy don't give dates and stuff. He can't remember it that good. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
He can have a general time but Tony knows where it was.
Yeah.
What time of day and everything.
Yeah. Tony is that. And then, I love that Tony always talks in promo. You know what I'm saying? And he's just an old school dude. And, God bless him.
Just the spitting image when they talk to you.
I know.
Finished from one of them, especially LT, is pretty funny stuff.
I can't imagine you working at I can because I saw it happen, but I can't imagine you at USWO. And let's say you're locking horns with Joe Cephas, and you guys are standing there taking a finish from LT, and you're like, LT, tell me where it ends.
Yeah.
No, but LT's great too, man. LT's awesome. Yeah. Definitely love the Falk family, man. They're great people. And again, they're just living proof of that wrestling is a generational thing too. It flows in their blood. So
yeah,
it's so cool to know that those people. And it's so cool that I finally tracked Tony down. I had him on the phone, and then I 3-way called you, and I said,
I was in Walgreens.
You were in Walgreens, and I was like, Wolfie D. I said, we got this. I think it's going to happen. And you were like, all right, Tony, what's up? This is awesome.
Said, you'll never guess who I've got on the phone right now. I swear, I'm not just saying this, but I immediately knew in my head it was Tony. I just knew it. I don't feel like we would have done that with anyone else.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point. Well, I tell you what, let me shut up and let's get him on the show here. What do you say? All right. We'll be right back after these messages with the one and only Tony Falk.
Hey, folks, to get your official Live It in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live in the color, Wolfie D. And as I promised you, man, what a great guest we have. This is kind of like one of those, I finally got Jamie on here. It's like a person that is so enrooted in my heart and in my soul of the wrestling business and helped me out early on, met me early on, knows Airwolf. He's one of the guys that'll say that to you. But he's also, Jimmy, you can give your opinion on this. There's about, I think, two people in the wrestling business while I was in it. I don't know what it is now, but there's two people that are like the most impersonated. Everybody can do a Tommy Rich. And you know how I want me to? Everybody can do a Tony Falk.
Yeah, Tony Falk.
And I just think what an impression that makes on everybody that's around you and what he has done in his wrestling life as well as his personal life, and just being that guy that I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about. My next guest, Tony Falk. I love you. Thank you for coming on.
Oh,
Well, brother, it's my pleasure. I'm glad we finally got everything right. And here I am, Wolfie D. It's good to be here, and I'm looking forward to this a lot, brother.
Man, thank you so much, Tony. I know you're busy. You do your thing, man. I mean, what are you doing right now? Last time me and you talked was, hell, I think I seen you at the TNA pay-per-view. And then were you at the Ric Flair gimmick too? I think I saw you there.
Yeah, I was down there, but I don't know if I bumped into you. But I know it was up in Portland, Tennessee. Was it the Strawberry Festival?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There was days and weeks where I never didn't see you, man. Me and you. I mean, I'm trying to think, Tony, man. We met. Did we meet like in Shelbyville and stuff before I ever started working for the Jarretts?
I'm sure up there in Shelbyville, Tennessee, at the old Stadium Cap. What history that venue of all the big names that would hang out there and come in. People wouldn't believe me. But I think that's where it was. Maybe was you doing a hood gimmick or? Was you a medic?
I mean, that's what I'm saying though. Is you always say to me, you go, "Hey, Airwolf." So you had to have met me before that. And that's what I can't remember. And I know, but you're one of those guys, man, that I always remember Tony Falk could quote, hey, 1985 at the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, at Von Eric. And I was there and I seen it happen. And my son LT, he was there too. And we all saw it happen. And so that's what I remember so much about you. And I love about you. You can remember everything. Are you still to that place where we can, man, I want to ask questions, Tony.
It's a shame. And I have to admit it. The years has finally caught up with me. And I just turned 63 in August. And I realized it comes with old age. I'm not as sharp as I used to be on those dates. Like everybody tells me, Jeff Jarrett, same thing. But you go into detail. But no, brother, I'm not like I used to be when it comes to that. I'm sorry. I know
it's okay, Tony. It's okay. But I guarantee I can ask you some questions and it'll probably ring your memory.
Yeah.
Because this is the funny thing, and I've told my past few guests this. Like, I don't have nothing written down, Tony. I don't have nothing written down in front of me. I just know you, and I call it in the ring, is what me and Jimmy say. Jimmy's got a bunch of shit wrote down that he's going to ask you, but I'm just going to call it in the ring.
You damn right.
Okay, he's got some bullet points, but
he's like, "Oh, Wolfie's skipping around on this, that, and that." No, fuck that. I call it in the ring. Anyway, this is where we're going right now. This is where we're going right now. Tony Falk, you've been in the ring. You worked the Texas territory. You worked Memphis. Probably, would you say those are your two like best places you worked and got to do your best shit? I would think yes. If it's different, tell me, because the follow-up question is both rough territories. Who's that son of a bitch you've been in the ring with and you were like, can this get over quick enough because I'm tired of getting my ass kicked?
Oh, man. Yeah. The Texas out there, it also happened when I was young in the business one time, and I was in Florida. I just got to Tampa, Florida down there in 85, and they changed my name to Tony Wonder, and this Tiger Conway Jr., he didn't know who I was. I was just a young underneath heel, but I got out there in the match, and I started trying to call some spots, and he would just do them, but then he would start shooting on me, like tying me up and just the whole match. And I remember looking at Fonzie was the referee, and he didn't know who, and I couldn't wait for this thing to get over with. It was Tiger Conway Jr. But later, after they told him who I was, and that he knew I was, been around, from there on, he treated me. We had other matches, and it was cool. But that one match, man, I couldn't wait for it. He was tying me up every kind of way, and I never had no amateur wrestling background.
Yeah. What made Tony? I know I probably know this answer just from the miles you rode together, but what made you want to get into the wrestling business? And I love this question right now because I know I ask it to a lot of people, and listeners are going, he always asks this.
But it's always so different. The answer is always so different.
It is, but I know Tony hasn't been one to go out there and do a lot of these interviews, and so I feel like,
oh no,
he's going to say right now, is exclusive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think it's people's ever heard this. We all have our stories to tell, but mine is a little different. You know, from there in Paducah, Kentucky, and I'm sure most people know that's the shoot, Pally. That's where Tony Falk's really from.
Yeah, Tony. That's the thing. Again, the impersonation starts out with Tony Falk from Paducah, Kentucky.
Yeah. I've had so many like Raven and so many that's, you know, blessed, you know, they've done left us, you know, like Brian and Eddie Gill, so many people, but they did some mighty good ones. But no, getting back to what you asked me the question. Yeah. It's a different story now. But in Paducah, Kentucky, where I grew up there in the projects, and my mother was doing, her and my dad divorced, and I didn't really have a father figure, but we lived there in the projects. But they had wrestling every Wednesday night down in Paducah, and I would go with some friends that I went to school with. Junior Gage and his grandmother would take us and just watch. But then they had to sell out the arena, so over by the projects they had a baseball stadium. So they said, well, we're going to run this stadium so we can get a lot more people in there. So I went over there before they got there with the ring, and it was Ricky Morton's dad, Paul Morton. So I got to help set the ring up. And there in Paducah, and they would let us in free. I was like 12 years old, started putting the ring up. And then they had a TV channel 29 there in Paducah on Saturday. So I would go down and help. So I started putting rings up when I was 12 and 13. And I did backyard wrestling. You know, everybody talk about Mick Foley jumping off the house, but backyard wrestling's been around as long. You know, there we was in the projects making rings, you know, out of carpets and garden hoses, all that stuff. But I got into that. And then Saul Weinroth, I met him after I got older there in Paducah. You know, he was the booking, and I got it. Bobo Kelly was this guy that we did backyard wrestling, but he was he did gymnastics in high school, so we could do all the moves there, and he was like a Rey Mysterio. He was real short, but he could move. And back then, you know, you didn't see a lot of that. But Saul gave us a chance, and I was a young guy. Now my story, I had my first match when I was 14 years old under a hood.
Earlier than me, and I think we probably talked about that. I mean, you know, Joe got me in the ring and started training me with Pete and all that. In 89, I was 15, right about to turn 16, and then started getting in the ring. And another thing that just sparked my mind when you were talking, Weingroff, George, you know, we've talked about him on here, and I've said how much of an influence he was on me. So his dad was an influence on you. Where was George at the time that you're talking about? Where Saul
he was in college, and then he became a school teacher. Actually, I talked to him just last week. I still talk to George Weinroff, you know, probably a few times a month. But but he came down, and I remember seeing him. He did some TV, but then he went on into you know, teaching after college, but I did hook up with them in the ICW days in the early 80s when they started running Paducah. He was involved with Savage and the Poffos and the company, and it got me it was Randy who got me to become a full-time wrestler. And he said, brother, if you're going to do this, you got to do it full-time. So I was a weekend warrior. I had my job there, and then 1982, I quit my job and moved to Lexington, Kentucky. And
now was that because what Randy said? I mean,
well, you know, I've been wanting to do it. I had been wanting to leave, but I just, I was around 21, and it was in 82, but I just, you know, moving off my first territory, but luckily it was in Lexington, Kentucky, and I was from Paducah, so a couple 100 miles. But it was an adventure to finally. I like working on the weekends, you know, because I still could get in the ring, but to do it full time and what I wanted to do, and it was his encouraging, and finally I built up the nerve to quit my job. I'd been working at the concrete company for about 4 or 5 years, and I quit and moved to Lexington, and the rest is history. What a life.
Who do you think, though, like, once you really started getting going, because, I mean, obviously you were a few years younger than me starting. And then, so I have people that I could say, like, Joe broke me in, you know, showed me this or that. And then I started working with, honestly, like Weingroff and stuff, and he kind of was putting it together for me, you know, hands on. And then I'll always give credit to Danny Davis. to teach me how to work once I got to Memphis. And then I say like Tommy and Doug taught me how to draw money. Rock and roll did this, whatever. Who did that for you? Like you learned the moves, you got going, says do this full time, but who taught you? Because you taught me, man. You taught me a lot. So, and you taught many other guys a lot. So who gave you that extra oomph? Because you know how it is. You can teach them to do flips, but you can't teach them when to do them and why to do them. So who got you there?
Well, early on, it was a local guy, but his name was Dr. Jerry Watson. He had broke in there before Saul and him come, but even after they left, he had worked Malden, Missouri for Henry Rogers in them towns, but he helped me a lot. He would come in the ring, but also Dan Burdick. He had come down from Minnesota to Paducah, but he would go to Texas and work for the Falks and come back and go to Kansas City and work for Geiger, but they would help me. And another one was Rocky Brewer, but I didn't, you think the moves, the holds, and
right.
But as you develop, as you go to the Poffos, but it was up there, man, with the crew that we had, like Bob Roop and Bob Orton Jr. and Ronnie Garvin and Jordan and Hustler Rip Rogers, believe it or not, Pistol Pit. I just a lot of those guys really, I would try to ask a lot of questions. But George Weinroth back then, even we would get in the ring when we could. He helped me. He was a stockholder, and him and Lanny was doing a tag team up there in the ICW. And so over the years, it's been many people, but I just tried to, and that's when I met Bobby Fulton when he come up there in the Poffos. He seen where I was putting the ring up, and I would help. Randy would give me some finishes to take to, and when he couldn't, and I was giving out finishes and running the camera, and Bobby got me away from there. Luke Williams was booking in San Antonio in '84, and he asked Bobby to come on down. He said, well, do you need anybody else? I got an underneath guy. And they said, yeah, bring them. And man, I got away from there and went to San Antonio, Texas. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but Bobby Fulton, what a nice man Joe Blanchard was. And for me to leave Kentucky, because I was still in Kentucky, even though Lexington, we ran West Virginia, Illinois, but to go all the way to Texas. What a trip that was.
That's the funny thing, man. In my younger years, I was never scared to go, like, just move, just wherever I got to go, whatever. I ended up, most of my time was in Nashville, but there was times I lived in Kentucky, and I've been down to Tampa, and it's like, I don't know, as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't want to go nowhere.
I can identify with that. Yes, absolutely. As you get settled in, and
we were crazy back then, man. Me and you, man, I can remember some stuff that we will not talk about, but man, me and you.
That's right.
K fucking Faye, man.
Amen.
Jimmy, I need you to get in on this conversation.
Honestly, I have a permanent smile on my face right now. That's y'all awesome. Talking about the history, Tony Falk being on our show, Wolfie D. We were 80 shows into this podcast, and who is one of them, other than Jamie Dundee, other than Randy Hales, who is one of them that we've always wanted? It's Tony Falk. Right?
Always been Tony Falk from Paducah, Kentucky.
So what's funny is you were talking about it a little bit, and you were talking about ICW there and the Poffos, and I read online that you were working against a guy called the Miser. Now, obviously, anybody who knows their stuff knows who that is, but talk a little bit about the Miser.
Man, I worked him a few hundred times. I know. I don't know. He was, and he helped me. Angelo Poffo, just think. Yeah. The Macho Man's father. I tell you, them two, Randy just idolized. I mean, he loved his father, man. We made many road trips, many road, but and Angelo would still do those push-ups and those setups. I mean, this man held a world record in doing consecutive setups. 6,033. He had broke a world. Angelo Poffo, but he was wearing the hood as the Miser.
Which is such a company, which everybody knows that Randy was kind of cheap, or he was tight. Let's just call him tight.
Well, it was in his DNA then. He got it from his dad. But Angelo believe me, Angelo, I wish I'd listened to him a lot more. And a lot of wrestlers I bumped into over the workers have said, man, we wish we
Tony, time out. I promise you have listened to someone on being tight because I've worked for you. So I know how that goes. But
well, yeah. Well,
continue on, Tony. Continue on.
All right. Well, I had to get tight back trying to survive. But no, in the early days, what he was saying, it's not how much you make, but how much you save. He had it, and Angelo did exactly that. And he taught his sons. I remember Laney was, had bought they had stocks and certificates, bonds, and he was like 27. He done bought him $100,000 CD or something back then. This is when I worked for them up there. But they would get the newspaper out and check the how their stocks were doing, even when we've made them road trips. But the miser, he was in shape, you know what I mean, and at his age. But he would wear that hood, and I'd hate when people in those chops. He was a chopper, believe you me. And when you get a certain age, gravity takes hold. Your body, it just starts sagging a little bit. And if they seen, they would holler, "Oh, look at that old man!" And man, the minute people on the front of around ringside, I know, man, he would get fired up and next thing, who you calling on me? He would throw me out there on the floor and he'd come out of that ring and pick me up and just light me up with those chops.
Oh, man.
showing those spectators. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of chops, I think we mentioned this before on here. Me and Jimmy did. Who do you think? Because I've had a few people that can light it up, man. Who chopped you the hardest, you think?
Okay, I've been in the ring with, and I always say, and these are three of the toughest men. We, in the wrestling business, there's a lot of tough individuals, believe me. Yeah. But I'm talking about the one up there in the Poffos was Ronnie Garvin. Garvin and Flair. I had babyface matches with him, many, and he would chop. And same thing, George Wander. We still talk about that, how Garvin would love to light us up with this damn chops. And then when I come here, Gypsy Joe, the hardest headed, and same thing with the headbutts, Garvin and Joe. But there was another one, and he liked working me. This other one who I knew, man, he stretched a lot of people, but in Louisiana there, he I guess I knew his brother from San Antonio, Brett Sawyer. So I'm talking about Buzz Sawyer, Mad Dog Buzz. Man. He had some good chops, but he never really hurt me. He just would, light me up with those chops. But we had some matches all around the loop down there in Mid-South, and the man never once hurt me. And that's another one. I think he was like 33 when he passed away, Buzz Sawyer. But what a worker! What a worker!
What a worker! Him and Tommy.
What a history they had down in Georgia, right? Georgia Championship Wrestling on WCW.
Let me ask you this, Tony, because we kind of got into that. Have you ever? I mean, I don't know if you told me this before, but tell me, something that went down. I've been in a couple of shoots and I've been in a couple of damn near riots and shit. And you probably know some of the ones I'm talking about. But remember, Eron and me got into it, and then because Jeff them gassed them up or whatever. But what's one for you? Back in the day,
I think I was at that show.
Yeah, I think you were too. That's why
I think I was.
Yeah, and you were probably there when Bill tried to stab me, and
I missed that one.
He said I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he didn't succeed. Yeah, I'm glad it. Yeah.
Anyway, my question was, in the ring, shoots. Anybody tried to shoot on you? Have you been in a riot type situation? Any kind of crazy shit like that?
Oh no! Other than that thing, that's more or less like the Tiger Conway. That I was telling you, I've been real lucky. It's been so good, but except that he would just shoot. He wouldn't work. He would I was there to make him take the bumps, get the match over. But no, I've been real lucky. But I remember one night we was in Jacksonville, Florida, while I was in Florida again, and I was watching from the curtain, and it was Hernandez, all right, the old Hercules, and I think it was Jesse Barr versus Billy Jack and Wahoo. And something happened in there that Wahoo, Herc wouldn't sell, and them two kind of got to shooting in the ring. They, you can tell when they're shooting and not selling.
Right.
And it was Hercules Hernandez and Billy J.
Oh, man.
Good one to watch.
Wahoo.
Yeah.
My bad.
I bet.
That whole name, I like to see them all.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's a couple that you're leading me in a perfect direction, Wolfie D. This is kind of where I was wanting to go with this. So there's two of them that are kind of legendary that we've heard about. One of them kind of straightened out a young kid. The other one was two veterans just whooping on each other. The first one I want to hear about is Coco Beware and Steve Kern. Were you there for that one?
No, and I've just listened. I've listened here in the last 6 months on the podcast from a couple different people about that right there. It happened in Nashville at the Babyface locker room, right at that little small in Nashville. Now that's one. Let's go back. Coco.
Yeah.
When he started, he's from Union City, and we knew each other when we was like 16 years old. We're right at the same age of 15. Well, he was driving, so we worked each other up there in Paducah and in Union City, Tennessee. Frazier, he was with, remember Uncle Elmer, Plowboy right. Frazier?
Plowboy, yeah.
Well, he ran Union City, and he helped Coco, I guess, get into business some too. I knew him from Malden. I knew Coco from Malden, Missouri. But anyway, we go way back there. And once again, like I said, Bobo Kelly was not too tall, neither is Coco, but man, he sure know how to fight. And the way the story goes out there, and I wasn't there that night, but they said he put it on Kern. That wasn't the outcome that Kern was thinking he was going to have.
We love both guys, by the way. We love both guys.
Right, great, both guys, exactly. Yeah. Just something that had to happen.
Now, there's another one that I think you probably were there or probably were around. It was the Dick Slater and Sting.
I was already in Tennessee. Now, see, that's getting back. I worked him. He come in to take the book over, and that's another one that was so nice. I worked him all around. He had Dark Journey with him, and I worked him all around. He was a pleasure all around the loop, when he first come in, because he was taking over the book down there. But that happened after I left, because Sting, but I missed that one. And you hear so much about that. They talk about that one, too.
Yeah, Yeah.
Don't really know what happened.
Right,
maybe it was.
Well, we could take a different path then.
I wish I could shed some light on it, but I won't.
Oh, it's no problem. No problem.
But let's get to the truth on this, because I know you know the deal.
Yeah.
So you were there for the E-Run thing. Tell me the truth. It was, I swear, man, because this was a show where it was a spot show on what?
It was a spot show up in Kentucky.
Yeah. And I just felt like, because like me and E-Ron were cool and shit, but it was kind of like he wrestled in high school, so did I. Oh, you can't take me down. Yes, I can, blah, blah, blah type of thing. And it was when the dressing rooms were still, it was a show where they weren't connected. And I feel like totally that Jeff and Frank gassed him up to go shoot with me. That's what I feel like. What do you know about the situation?
Once again, now come on now. I'm telling you, this is shoot, Pally. I don't really. I mean, it sounds like Frank might have had something, or maybe Jeff and Frank, but I don't know. I really don't.
Because remember they were doing.
But I remember that town almost. Okay, I'm trying to think. Was it Livermore, Kentucky, or
man?
somewhere
I
up
have
around?
No idea what the town was. The only thing I remember was being in the ring, and I knew he was ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a punching thing. It was just like something. I can't remember whether probably Frank got in the ring as the ref and said said you can't take him down, and then tells him the same thing. And that's what it got into, was us just trying to take each other down. There was no spots. There was no headlocks, lockups, nothing. It was just shoot wrestling right then. Boom, boom, boom.
Right there.
And he couldn't get me down, and he got frustrated. And then Jamie was on the outside. When we would work for those little spot shows at that time, we'd come to the ring with each other, whatever. So I roll E-Run over to the side of the ropes as we're doing this grappling thing. I just roll him over and kind of dump him out of the ring. Well, then Jamie does something. And then it turned kind of into a shoot. And then the next thing I remember, it was E-Ron grabbed a chair and he shoot threw it at me.
Man.
and then charged me as he threw it. Is like he threw it for a distraction, right? So I got to catch it, but then he's charging me low, right? Boom!
Wow.
I go back on the bleachers. Well, then here comes Jamie with the hubcap and not doing a working hubcap with flattened on the head. He's using the side of it in dude's ribs.
Man, that's how you get a broke rib. Wow.
Yeah, and I think there was a punch thrown after that, but then Eron calmed down after that when he knew. I mean, there was two of us out there, and we weren't going to let each other. He couldn't take me down, and it frustrated him. So then he wanted to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was somebody had to gas him up, but the fans didn't know either. The people that paid their money to buy a ticket to see a good show, they probably wonder what the hell is going on here. Maybe when you got out of the ring and did a little, with the hubcap, a little brawling, they might have. But yeah.
Might have bought him back there, but
I thought you were over there and might have known who gassed that up.
Yeah, well, you might be right. I can't say for sure, but somebody, Frank O.H.W. Morrell was around. Yeah, something.
You know how many times he ribbed me, man? I mean, you were even talking about that the other day when we called to set this up. He called me Whoopie, and then do you remember, Tony, that I swear this was him and Jeff. When I first started, they would make up different names on the card because usually me and Jamie would do a tag, like I said, and then some singles. But it would be Woolly B or Whoopie D, or each week it was some similar sounding name to Wolfie D, but it was
really
Wolfie D. And I swear it was then, man. I swear it was.
That was probably a rib. Yeah, you know how those old timers. But
I mean, that's cool. That's cool. I love that. That broke me in. Like these guys today, they're not getting broke in the right way.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They don't know what the business used to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was working territories and traveling and just it's a whole different thing.
The internet killed it, Tony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of done that.
We got to be part of it. And that's what I tell people. I'm just so happy and so blessed that I thank all the fans when they come up to me and say, Tony, thank you for the memories. And I said, well, I hope I did my job. I said, y'all are the best fans in the world, right? Professional wrestling fans. And I got to live my dream many times more. I used to dream about it there in Paducah, and I got to do it early, but to go places. I go back there sometime and I see people that never left that I went to school with and they had the jobs and raised the family. But I did get to go out and see. Like I wrestled in the Superdome Thanksgiving night, 1984. I tell everybody, man, I could not believe it. I wrestled Buddy Landell. I still got the program when Watts was running those shows. And I was like the second match, but I can say I wrestled in that big, large Superdome.
It's crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's the way I feel. I mean, there's a few places and a few things that I can say, you know what? I did that, man. I did that. And I love that you feel the same way.
You, Wolfie D, an example of all the people that I say it takes a village to raise a child. But I can look back and say I'm so proud when I see your body of work that you've done in the business and know that I knew you up there at the stadium cab and watch you grow and continue to grow and all the things you did and accomplish in the business. I take pride in knowing that even if I helped you just a little bit or just seeing that you did so much, you know what I mean? And I know your mom and your family was stepdad, everybody was proud of you, but and not everybody can do this. Some people are just natural. And Jimmy, remember when I talked to you the other day?
Yes,
and
sir.
I told you about some of my last best matches?
Yeah.
I think I named maybe 3 guys that I can remember when I could still. Wasn't Wolfie D one of them?
Absolutely. He probably was
down
the first.
in Columbia, Tennessee. Yep.
Yeah.
But Wolfie, I'm proud of you too, brother. I'm glad I finally got to come on here. And I don't know if I ever told you, but you accomplished quite a bit. Yeah, you did a lot in the wrestling business.
You're hitting me all in the heart right now, Tony.
Wow. And you survived it too. Now you a survivor too. So that's another thing.
Speaking of my heart, yeah.
you still here, brother. Me and you both. So
listen, man. I've got cold chills right now. Thank you so much, Tony. That you don't understand how much that means. You don't understand how much. Yeah.
Well, that's a shoot, Pelly. I know you. You love the business just like I did as a youngster, and you got in it, and you got to do so much, and you accomplished. But it's still the business. We go around like the other night. I was at that show, and Jeff Jarrett and Doug Gilbert and George Goulas was up there, and I'm thinking, man, of all the history in Tennessee with the Goulases and the Jarretts and all there, I'm in a 2023 in a building with those guys,
Absolutely.
Hey, think about this real quick, man. Let me ask you, because we're just on, and because you hit me in the heart, and I can say what the fuck I want right now. What is your okay, I got to be at WrestleMania with the Nation Domination. Didn't get to wrestle in it or whatever. Took some bumps in it or whatever at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago. That should be to a lot of people. They're like, oh, was that your best, memory or whatever? But for me, no, it's not. It's being at TV5, and then also for me, it's being main event at the Nashville Fairgrounds because that's where I grew up. And
absolutely,
I have a certain memory of a certain match, and I've talked about it on here. It was a cage match or something, and it was packed. And when I stood up on the top of the cage, the whole crowd, you know how that venue is, they're all around you. And around.
That building was built for wrestling. Yeah, fairground.
And so when you stand up on top of a cage, it's like the people upstairs are standing up the level that you are and stuff. And it was the biggest rush ever. And I dove off and I went through a table or something with Tracy, rest his soul. But anyway, my point was, man, what venue gives you that love, do you think? What meant the most to you?
Well, it's it goes back to, we grew up in Tennessee wrestling, when I was a kid, and it's funny, a guy that I had his first match, Jeff Jarrett, years later in Memphis at the Mid-South Coliseum, he gave me one of my best matches ever. And Brian was in my corner because it was where Jeff had done beat me in a hair versus hair match. So they shaved my head. So we had this guy that we had to play the role as my father, and his hair was going to be on the line. So if Jeff won, we shaved Tony Falk's father's hair. But if we won, we shaved Jeff's hair.
What would this
Brian
be about?
Out there, we had Brian Christopher, and that was at the Coliseum. Brian Christopher was in my corner. So in reality, Buddy Wayne bragged it for years. In reality, people would know that Jeff Jarrett, no way, was going to lose his hair to Tony Falk, right?
Right, exactly.
But part of suspended disbelief when the fans got how we had Brian in the corner and they thought maybe they're going to screw him, maybe they're going. But that match, and Jeff had me going and kept, come on, Tony. A couple of times we had to grab a rest hold because I blowed up a little, and he said, then we get my wind back. But he gave me one of my best matches ever at that Mid-South Coliseum. I didn't get the opportunity. I'm happy with what I was able to do and help build people up. A carpenter, people, knows the role. I wish I would have went to the gym more, and that's what Jeff and many people say. Tony, you was your own worst enemy. If you had worked out and looked more, Shawn Michaels wrote about it in his book right over here. I got the book. He says that Tony was, but that's going back. But
hey, so let me tell you this. I was going to say this earlier. The one person that has ever preached to me, and I'll never forget the lines that you always said to me, and you were saying it to help me, not because you thought I was overweight. Obviously, back then I was skinny, but you would be like, Wolfie D, tan fat looks better than white fat.
That's what Jeff was saying the other day, Tony. Because Frank had said that. But getting back to the muscle, the look like an athlete. That's what Shawn was saying. And I wished I could have done it, but I didn't do it. But I know that I helped those guys, and I could make them look better than they could make themselves. If they was green,
you helped me.
If they were green, and I could help them. So from now you, Wolfie D, Jamie, second generation. But and you and him here in Tennessee and wherever, but you got with the booking and with y'all's ability to get over and with the gimmick and all, y'all drew money, and I was not in a position where I can say, y'all sold that fairgrounds. I remember y'all worked Doug and Tommy and different people, so you have memories. But my memories, I was in some of them people that were Tony wasn't in no main events. Well, I was in a handful, like one time in Memphis because it didn't draw too good, but it was me, Dundee, and Landell versus Lawler when they turned Joe LeDuc babyface. A young Jeff Jarrett, very young, only a month into business. They had Jeff and Lawler and Joe LeDuc versus us at the Mid-South Coliseum. I guess we did it all. And a few other times. I got the programs, the souvenirs, the inserts to show. Yeah, I was in a couple main events out there. But
let me ask you this, though. Hold on. And I hate to hear you say that, man, because it's almost like you're like downplaying yourself or something.
Oh no, I'm just
no. Listen, as far as main events, whatever. I mean, whatever. I swear to God, no matter how many main events that me and Jamie did or whatever, I feel like there's a lot more people that know your name than know mine, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You can't tell me that Boy Tony and stuff didn't have matches that were remembered.
Oh yeah, well,
been or not, but everybody remembers you doing that gimmick too.
Yeah,
they come up to me. They still last year and the year before down at the Memphis Hall of Fame when I was there, the people once again and that character, the Boy Tony, and that was Jerry Jarrett. I come up with call me when I had gone from here for I guess the Booker switch and I got cut. So I was in Paducah and he called me up and said, Tony Falk, where have you been? You want to come back and work? I said, yes, sir. Well, how does this sound? Boy Tony. And I said, what? He said, Boy George. So he said, call and order you some pink tights. He gave me and I called remember Carl Hildegard, K&H it was.
K&H, man.
You heard that. Nobody even knows who K&H is. Yeah, but they made the tights.
I'll never forget Pete when I was, probably 15, right before I started getting the business. Got a K&H catalog, man.
Yeah.
Coolest motherfucker in the world.
I've been there. I was young too in Paducah, man, and had some samples of all that from the wrestling office in Paducah when I was like 14, and they sent them a bunch of that shiny, them green capes and jackets, and I had all that. But then this is a shoot now. In '85, I gave a catalog to a guy who was training, and he would once he started working, he became the name of Lex Luger. But I gave him the catalog to order his first pair of trunks, really? And he couldn't even get them past his thighs.
White catalog, wasn't it, Tony? A little black and white. Yeah, it was just
black and white. But it was but he had a narrow waist. See, Luger was pumped up even from the football. The pro, and then he come in to get trained, Matsuda, and we trained him. I was there on Mondays and Fridays helping him when he first time he ever got in the ring there in Tampa, Florida. I was there. And I seen him in September and at the Starcade. I seen him and George Weinrop. I said, come here, George. And Luger, I said, tell him, and Lex, and he smiled. He said, yeah, Tony helped me. Tony was the first one. And because Matsuda would just sit there and watch and guide coach from the side, But he was a big dude, man. Luger was big. Like I said, even when he got started in Florida, but he went on to make big money in the business, and people still talk about him. I was there at the beginning, so there's another name I can put out there and they know who I am when I come up. They smile and give me a handshake or a hug. So I'm happy that I got to do what I did and had so much fun, and I'm a survivor. I'm still here.
Tony, you're the best, man. I'm telling you.
Straight up. Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey folks, this is Wolfie D here, and if you are looking to buy or sell a home in Tennessee or Southern Kentucky, you're going to want to call my buddy, the rock star realtor, Benji Bowie. And you say, Wolfie, how do I get in touch with this rock star? Well, you can call him directly at 615-390-8216. You can go to his website, bowiehomes.com. That's B-U-I-E homes.com. Or you can email him at benbowie34@gmail.com. When you need a home, you need the Rockstar Realtor.
Benji is a member of Exit Realty's Garden Gate team in Gallatin, Tennessee.
So, you brought up Lex Luger. Were you there the night of the epic or not so epic, really? The cage match.
I knew where you was going. No, I think I was in Puerto Rico or something. I was somewhere, but it took years later. In the last maybe 3 years ago, I watched it on a DVD somewhere. No, I wasn't there, and he was real green. He didn't know what to do, I guess. And I've seen some questions. I guess I've seen some. Yeah, he just didn't know what was happening in Fonzie. What a referee he was, Bill Alfonso.
For sure.
The Brody cage match, right?
Yeah, the Brody cage match.
Yeah, well, it was Luger that had to climb out of the cage.
Yeah. But you worked with Brody, I'm sure.
I worked him a couple times in Texas. He's the one that brought Boy Tony into Dallas. He and Buck Robley was booking, and that was in '87. Yeah. And once again, I done dropped this name. I done dropped this name before, Bobby Fulton, and I'm gonna drop it again. I was here in Tennessee and doing Boy Tony, and we all know part of the business is you got to rotate talent, so sooner or later you're going to get your notice. And Randy Hales had to give Boy Tony his notice at Jonesboro, Arkansas that time. Boy Tony had to run his course, so I had a downtown Bruno, what they call him, Harvey Wilson. Yeah, he helped me edit a bunch of Boy Tony stuff together. We went and rented a VHS to hook up to our other one and made, so we could edit. And I sent this tape to Bobby Fulton, and he gave it to Brody, and Buck Robley was helping, and that was in '87. And they called me on a Tuesday and said, when can you be here? And Friday night I was out in Dallas at Eric Emery was doing that gimmick, flamboyant Eric Emery, and here come Boy Tony, and we teamed up that night, and we worked Brody. We went over in a tag tournament to get a shot at the Fantastic. So that guy helped me so much different times over the years, and I talked to him just 6 months ago. Bobby Fulton, he's had a lot of health scares, but he's doing better. His cancer's gone, and I'm so proud. I need to call him here, but he did. And I always said, Bobby Fulton, man, if I ever win that,
we'll get him on here with us. If you
love to,
you need to get him on. Y'all need to get Bobby on some. But I told that man, if I ever win that lottery, Pally, I'm gonna make sure I reward you for all them times you helped me out.
That means a lot. Well, you talk about Puerto Rico and Brody. Obviously, put two and two together there. Were you there the night?
Yes, I was on that show. I was. It was in Bayamon, but that's why when people nowadays they think all those locker rooms connect, but they don't. And them days, like Wolfie said, in them spot shows, we were in the Hills was on one side of the building, the Baby's on the other, right? Wolfie, the Babyface, and you and Eron had no communication, and that's how in the big baseball stadiums over there in Puerto Rico, we was in Bayamon, and the Hills was over there, the Babyfaces was over here. So no, I was there that night that it happened. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. July the 16th.
I'm sure there's nothing you can even. Not much to say. Yeah, just a bad night for sure. Did that change your mind on Puerto Rico after that? Did that make you think differently?
Well, I was. And Jose, the booker. Jose was the booker. He had given me my notice once again, a month notice at the end of June. He said, "Amigo, I'm gonna have to finish." So on July the 30th, I done had tickets. We was leaving on August the 1st, so I was already leaving. So this happened right there in the middle of the month. They asked me, could I stay a little longer, and I said, "No, I got to go." But it was just something. I've never been back.
Did you live at the
Wolfie's
Dahlia?
been over there. What was that?
Did you live at the Dahlia?
No, we lived out there by the airport. Roberto Soto, that he was in, what was his name? Roberto Soto. He was Invader 2.
Okay.
Yeah. He had a place in Bobby Jaggers. I was with Bobby Jaggers and Dan Crawford. They were doing a gimmick called the Kansas Jayhawks. And when we stayed out by the airport out there and just a few blocks away from the beach.
Guess me and Jamie and Brian Lee, we got stuck at the place we'd always heard about, the Dahlia, and I know you've heard about that.
Oh yeah,
the cockroach.
I remember you.
Thing and
Oh, yeah. Y'all, well, it used to be the Tanamo down there in Convert. Yes, Verde and Condado. Yeah.
And then I had my icy hot incident.
I heard that. Yeah, we've heard that over the years. You and that icy hot gimmick thing. But I hadn't been back since then. But no, Carlos was a great guy to me. You know, Jovica. Jose was a booker. Yeah, Jose was the booker.
Jovica's the one I speared at a WWE event one time because we went into the restroom and I was partying. We were in WWE and I was partying and walked in there, was using the restroom, and he had to make a comment because he was at the urinal next to me and I didn't like it. And I speared him, and Road Dogg had to pull me out of the bathroom. So
damn,
seriously,
funny stuff.
Yeah. See, little Victor, he was there. He was so cool. You know, he's in the office. He went on to own his own companies over in Japan and over there, and but he was just working in the office. He was a stockholder, I believe, but so nice little. I was there, you know, and for a while our roommate was he's just doing his retirement match, the Great Muta.
Oh,
Muto.
man.
Yeah, he was a super black ninja. We made many road trips and lived together there for a while. He used to feel LT kicking around in Candy's stomach when she was pregnant. He would put his hand on LT and Muto. Yeah, now he's had a long career. These are people that I wished over the years I could have got to see and bumped into. Jimmy Suzuki always used to say, "Hey, Tony Falk, Muto say hello," or this or that. But I never got to see him after all those years.
Yeah.
Jimmy Suzuki. I remember him. He's pretty cool.
Muda's a legend for sure. Yeah. So, obviously, you bring up Muta, and obviously, that leads me to my personal favorite. Well, anybody in the wrestling business that I modeled my little managing career after. And I say career as in like 10 years of acting like an idiot outside the ring. And Tony, I know you and I was your adversary at Saw. And to me, that was the epic part of my career, is getting to work with you and being your little villain against you. And that was, to me, that was the best I could ever do in wrestling. But I modeled myself after one person, and that was Gary Hart. And I know you knew Gary well. I would love to hear something about Gary real quick.
Man, I was out there in Texas, and Eric Emery just got in there to become the assistant booker. When Brody left, he made Gary Hart the booker, and there's my friend and roommate becoming the assistant booker, and I got to really get to know Gary. We made road trips together and learned from him how he would book, and he would have his notebooks, and he was detailed and listen to him talk in the car, like you talking about car talk, just and how much he had done, how much money he had drawn, helped him Von Erichs. He really tried to help Fritz and them for years, but he was just, he survived that plane crash with Bobby Shane, and Austin Otto was in it. And the way back then, he could have, died in that dang bay, Tampa Bay, but he didn't. He had a broke back, but he kept going for years. He had a mind for the wrestling business, and Uncle Gary, that's what the Von Erichs called him. That's what we were calling him. That's why years later here they call Uncle Tony, but Gary Hart, Playboy Gary Hart. And Jimmy, I remember out there in Saul, brother, you did a great job, and we was just storytelling. We was trying to entertain the people and keep the people coming back and buying a ticket, and you contributed. And thank you for helping out, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. And
I loved it. I loved it. Gary Hart,
I'm telling you, you can watch on YouTube some of them. He did a few of them, right? Those podcasts, not podcasts, but shoot
interviews,
with Mark Lawrence. And I just play that thing over, just listening to him talk. because he come up, and that Texas wrestling was rough. And the spoiler, he managed Don Jardine, and that's where Taker gets that walking that rope from, because Uncle Donald used to do it. And he picked me as Cowboy Tony to work a program, and we had a match out there in Fort Worth on the Star Wars show they had every year at the Will Rogers Coliseum. I think a bullwhip on a pole, something. But I like working him. You know, his career was winding down, but he was a big man. And you hear about, he was one to, you know, be pretty stiff in the ring. I guess he might have got into a few of them shoots with people.
Yeah.
Some legendary shoots, I think. Maybe him and Wahoo are different people. But he treated me so nice. I've got some tights that he'd give me, you know, but nobody would ever believe him. You know, he wore that Tarzan top like Lawler do. But Uncle Donald. But Gary Hart was, I wish I could, I'm trying to think of just something special to tell you, but the man was just...
I mean, well, one thing you can say is he took that Boy Tony gimmick off of you and put you into a different and better gimmick.
And that book of his, man, that you can't even get it. You know, it was sold out.
Exactly.
I wish that Josephus had one, God rest his soul, and he let me borrow that book, and I give it back to him. I had it for long because he asked. I said, "Yeah, brother, let me." But I did make some copies, and I can't even find of the page where he talked about me in his book, Gary, and Tony, how he inherited a couple good hands when he took over the book. But he toned it. Yeah, he said, "You don't have to be Boy Tony. You can quit wearing that makeup." And I was relieved, brother. I said, "I don't have to do this no more."
You bring up Josephus. We're all three huge fans of Josephus. Brody, Joe Hudson. We did a show back in July as a tribute to our man Josephus, and we had his brother on to talk about him. Wolfie D even did a reaction to some things that Joe said on the show. I just would love to talk a little bit about Joe.
Well, man, I'm getting my eyes already. He came to us. He was a fan. He come to our shows and bought tickets and brought that man. I can't think the name, but he would film. And at the Stadium Inn, he helped us promote, to tell fans about this show down here at this hotel. And Joe, man, and then he wanted to get into business, and he talked to LT and I, and that's what we say. You know, he started with us. Dutch, I know, and I talked to Billy Court. I talked to the lady Sherry, and I said, I smartened her up. I said, look, it was the Falks. When he came, he paid his membership, and we at our ring right there at the USWO. But then Dutch had a thing at Mike Cersei's up there, NWA, whatever, and then he went there. You know, you get in the business, you can always learn more and more. So he went to Dutch, and Dutch helped polish them up more after we taught him some basic fundamentals, and he learned. But he helped me so much. We watched him first. We had Josephus, the Shelby Street Brawler, his mother and his brother and his family. But we just loved him so much. LT, I mean, it's not a week that goes by still and it's going to be the 2-year anniversary next month. But we miss him and love him. Always. And then Wolfie D, I remember Wolfie helped him. Then I see that. Remember the lamb chop video Wolfie filmed out there to Stadium Inn, man. I seen that a while back, and I had tears rolling down my eyes just watching that, because we love this man. He touched so many lives, and 43 years and gone. And I talked to Camille, right? Is that her name, from the NWA, the lady? Last night at that show, I said, remember me? I'm Uncle Tony, because Joe made that. Jimmy, did you ever see the Uncle Tony's Waffle and Tire Iron commercial?
Yes, I did. I love that commercial. Yes.
Okay.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
I'm Tony Falk from Paducah, Kentucky. I've been in the wrestling business for over 40 years. You may know me. I'm the one that taught Shawn Michaels how to speak Kizarny. So back in the day when I used to travel down the road in my old Delta 88 Oldsmobile, I became fond of two things: waffles and tire irons. So that's why I decided to open my own store, Tony Falk Waffles and Tire Irons. We paint all of our tire irons solid gold. And our waffles offer only the best of organic and gluten-free ingredients. So when you're in Paducah, stop by, tell them Uncle Tony sent you.
That's all Joe. We was in a studio. He had 3 more that never aired, but we took hours, and he led me through all that. Joe Cephas and Billy Corgan, they sold out them shirts. Uncle Tony's wife, Nick Altus wears it. And Mickey James' husband, he told me, Tony, this is my favorite shirt, and I got some pictures that I got off of the internet, him wearing my shirt. He said, I seen him at that, that thing they had at the college, and him and Crimson and Jack Dane, they all come up there. But Nick Altus, man, he says, Tony, I love it. But I could tell you, but he is going to be missed.
Yeah.
He was at Tony Falk Day. I might have told Jimmy, I grew up in the project. I just wanted to be a pro wrestler. And then somehow the mayor in Paducah and people talking that I had went and told people about Paducah, and they gave me this award called the Duke of Paducah. It's the highest civilian award. And Joe came. He said Joe Cephas wasn't missing that for nothing. The COVID about shut us down. We was going to be indoors. We're going to be in that Boys and Girls Club. Then they said you can't have nothing indoors. Then they said outdoors. Then they said, so we went across at the park. They had a pavilion, an open air pavilion, and we still did it. And they gave me this. And Joe came all the way from Nashville, Scott Till and his wife, Quint Charisma, Jeremiah Plunkett, Madman Pondo come all the way to be there for me. But Joe, man, he spoke, and I never would have, he touched a lot of lives, and he'll greatly be missed forever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
all day from it. And I have to say this though, like, dude was a missionary. Dude was a musician. He was a wrestler. Yeah. He was a dude. He was all kinds of stuff, man. He lived a pretty full life for the years that he was here with us.
Absolutely.
Oh, he lived a life. He lived, and man, he taught and he made friends, and he was he's a special person.
Very special.
The world is was a better place with him in it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Saying something about, Josephus just brought back another name. We got a lot of brothers that, man, me and you've seen a lot of come and go. You've seen more than I have, but Lord, I've seen a lot. Billy John. We both love Billy Joe, didn't we?
And talking about tech, yes, we love Billy Joe Travers, Billy Don, Billy Gary Mize. He was. I stumble across that when I'm bored. I was just watched when he hit my friend Percy Pringle, Paul Byrd, the late Paul, over the head with the guitar, just one of them angles. And he said, "Here, take this to Eric Emery." And Billy was standing on top of the apron. Percy was on the ring. Percy was on the floor there beside the ring, and Mark Lawrence. So Billy's up on that high sportatorium ring. So he blasts him with the guitar coming down. I've never seen a shot. And man, he laid Percy out. But Billy, man, that's another one that left us way too soon, man.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was 41 years.
Man. What a good dude, man. I swear people tell me to this day, Wolfie, you're the only person that Billy ever paid back.
Well, you must be. Yeah, I could tell you some funny. Listen to this. Out there at the Sportatorium on the TV taping on Saturday mornings, we do the show Friday night, and they got to where they would let people in on Saturday morning just to fill that huge. Well, there was a lady who was a secretary for Chris Adams in his promotion, and he was using that one off. And somehow Billy had got her to lend him some money or something. This woman went out and had these copies. She probably had maybe 300 of those. Billy, she wants her money back. and they passed them out. So when he come walking down that aisle at the Sportatorium, those people held them things up, and there was at least 200 or 300 of them. They were on lime green copy paper. Billy, she wants her money back.
That is hilarious. But what a great soul Billy was, man. I'm sorry, but he was
really
great soul. Great worker, man. What a great worker.
I went to his
funny. He was everything that came out of his mouth was funny.
Very, very entertaining, man. He was a Kentucky guy up there, and I went to his funeral over there. And, when he passed, I had an old car, but Donnie Goodman, our friend Donnie, he followed me back. Yeah, he followed me back so I could make it back to Nashville, because I said, I hope this old Hoopty will make it, but I've got to go pay my respect to Billy Joe. And I went and I made it, and I made it back safe. But
you remember that O'Donnell turned a word that we just made in the rest of business with our karting stuff, but they turned me Smizzle. You remember that?
Yeah.
Because Donnie got confused because we'd always say Smiz for smoke, and then for some reason that was the way to do it. And he said, "Yeah, they turned me Smizzle over there." Smizzle. And so we always
he contributes. Well, I didn't know that, but he did get a hold of. He got a hold of LT and them before Christmas.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, Donnie did. He pops up out of the blue, but he got a hold of him or something, but they never heard back. But he was at that
the Ric Flair gimmick.
Yeah,
Ric Flair. Yeah.
So we're talking funny stuff here, and I don't want to lead off in a different path, but I got to hear some good ribs from you, Tony. Have you tell me a good rib you saw or was a part of or had done to you or something funny like that?
Oh, it was just where they would hide shoes like Reggie B. Fine. And when the Sandman came in here, he didn't know about ribs, and they smartened him up, and he thought he was playing, learning how to. He was like man. And
Snowman or Sandman?
Huh?
Snowman or Sandman? You said Sandman.
Sandman. Jim Fullerton, the Sandman. He came down from Philadelphia, but listen, the first gimmick, he had to carry this big diving board, the surfboard around.
Yeah.
And the wetsuit. That was his first gimmick. He'd come out, the Sandman, like I guess one of them beach bums or something. He carried that damn thing to the ring, and Eric Emery took a pocket knife one time and cut, because he ribbed me so much, he cut my name on that board one time.
Oh,
with the damn Eric did, because I wouldn't rib back, but he somebody smartened him up. Boy, he was just doing little stupid ribs. But one thing they would do is like we'd be in Louisville and we'll leave that dressing room and go to the ring and come back. Then all of a sudden go get showered and get dressed. You only got one tennis shoe there.
Yeah.
And you remember this, Wolfie D, and your shoe, you looking, you cussing. So then you had to I had to wear my wrestling boots home. Back to Nashville because they done stole one of your tennis shoes.
Oh, man.
So that's like a Tuesday. So then a Saturday, maybe in Nashville, then you come back, all of a sudden your tennis shoes popped up back, that one that was missing. Yeah. They done had it. Just many ribs, but if somebody could ever compile a book, put it in the form of all the ribs, there's been hundreds of. But Sandman, I wasn't there this last night, but they got him in Evansville when he was finishing up. He had to go back to Pittsburgh because his wife wanted him to come, so he cut his little stay short down here. He was only here probably about 7 or 8 weeks. But that night they took I guess Frank Morrell and Jeff Gaylord and them. They was tying his Zuba pants up in knots, pulling on the. Eric Emery supposedly went out and spray painted his headlights on the van with his black paint. I think another one did the old, crap in the bag.
Yeah.
I think that was a stiff rib there.
Yeah, that's a very stiff rib because your wife finds that gimmick,
Yeah, toothpaste. They've been so many. Oh, but no, I never did like getting in. I never ribbed, and I really didn't like to get ribbed, but I got ribbed a few times.
Yeah,
you don't want the repercussions.
Yeah,
but I did pay. I paid one back one time, and could have cost us a big deal at Channel 5. See, Brian Christopher had chased me. Wolfie might have been there when I used that Ethernet lighter and got Brian BC, man. He jumped 2 foot up. But what happened is he had a big wad of something, and I thought he was that flash paper or something. He was going to burn me, chasing me around over in Missouri. West Memphis at the Art one. And I said, Brian, get out of here. And he was like, I thought he was going to throw that. And I was running. People thought it was so funny. And a couple months later at Channel 5 right there, and there was a can of ether starting fluid, for the car.
Yeah,
they must use it. I've seen it. They used it for I guess on the old rag where they come up by. I think maybe Sean Stasiak or somebody was doing something. They were working. Angle was I can't remember exactly, but I know I said, you got a lighter, and Brian had come out of taking a shower, and he was sitting there with his towel around him, and I backed up, and I took and flicked that big and hit that button, and it was like a blowtorch. Jumped, and then I got in trouble from our friend Randy Ells because he said, Tony, that could have set the sprinkler system. That could have been. We could have lost it. It could have been bad. But
and honestly, I've seen it where people didn't know what they were doing with the ether, about knock out the whole front row too. It's not always something you want to play with. Now, I want to ask this question because I know you're going to be. See, the thing about you, Tony, is I know you're truthful. That's the cool part about you. But also,
I appreciate that.
But also, you are a good brother. You know what I mean? You're not going to like rag on somebody. So I don't expect you to throw anybody under the bus on this. But as far as it goes, who was the best paying promoter and who was the worst paying promoter?
Well, Joe Blanchard, like I say. In San Antonio, in that whole territory, he and I tell all the years since I've been down there, I would tell everybody what a sweetheart of a man Joe Blanchard was, a promoter and a payoff man. He was definitely the best.
Yeah.
And then the worst, and I'm trying to think. It might be here in Tennessee. I don't know. I was going to have to ask Wolfie, but this is my answer. So
I like that. That's a good answer. Yeah.
But I'm sure you've heard it more than once. But,
sure.
I don't know. But they did what they could do to stay in business. I understand that too from that end.
And they stayed just business longer than anybody as far as the territories go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly, because Vince put everybody out of business, just about everybody in Tennessee. USWA was one of the last ones, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that deal, Wolfie was there. I think he was there was you there when the people from Ohio bought the company?
Yeah.
I think I got let go right when it was happening. Larry Burton and RH had to give me again. I got a notice, so I didn't get to.
Were you there that night? I know it was me, Dutch, Glenn Jacobs, Jamie. There was quite a few more, and I can't remember everything. Where Larry Burton took us all to that Morton Steakhouse after hours in Nashville. Do you remember that? Were you there?
No, I sure was.
This was like close to closing time. I don't know, but he was just trying to flex his muscles, and he kept them open after closing time and took us all there. And I mean, each plate was $100 or something, and this dude just kept them open and bought us all dinner.
A big shot. He's trying to make himself out a big shot. Yeah.
Right. Another question, and I know, here's the other thing. I'm a big fan of your son, LT. LT was super cool to me. He would book me on USWO. You would book me on that show, especially when you had moved it to Millersville. Yeah. But you and LT are so different than a lot of wrestling dads and their sons, okay? Wolfie and I have talked about this before, that it's almost odd how some of the dads act with their sons. And I'm not naming any names, but what have you ever noticed that you're like, I can't believe that you're almost kind of cold with your son, when you and LT, I mean, it's as evident that you love your son as much as you breathe air. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Do you ever notice that some wrestling dads are a little weird with their wrestling sons?
Yeah, I've seen different cases over the years, and I just didn't get to do a lot of the in-ring with him, John Caesar and Kid Cash and just a lot of different people, Iran and other people, but I just wasn't in the shape or gotten lazy and didn't get up in the ring and work with him a lot. Reno might have helped him some, Reno Regan's new, but yeah, I don't know what you can contribute that to,
Is it just competition, maybe? Is it
maybe?
Do you think it's this guy's getting the rub off of my name and they're going to take my spot? Is it that thing? I mean, it's just always kind of puzzled me how I think of my 16-year-old son.
Back in the older days. Like, I don't think Tony, honestly, I'm not speaking for Tony. Love you. I think it is a deal where Tony just didn't feel threatened by his son, as to where maybe the other ones you're talking about, and we all know who that
I think I know where you're going. See, we was actually wrestling, working at the same time. But are you talking like maybe a Jamie and a Bill, or a Brian and a Lawler? Or
maybe so. Maybe that's what I'm talking about.
Maybe that's what we're talking about.
I don't know.
I think it is. We all know that. We all know that.
But I didn't know where y'all was going.
The knife fight.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Let's just put that out there. You know that you know, to be honest, for different reasons. I don't know what they would be, you know.
Sure.
But it's you know, you try to get over. You know, everyone wants to get over, and it's hard for some.
Hey, here's something I want to bring up, because the one thing we haven't mentioned, and I want to bring this back to Jimmy real quick, is that on our top 10 finishers, and we didn't even give it honorable mention, but everybody knows, want me to,
The habba.
Yeah. And I think that should be in the top 10 finishers. And Tony, I want you to tell everybody where that came from. What the fuck does that mean even? I mean, do you want me to stick my thumb in this throat, or?
Yeah, that's what it is. Exactly. It's exactly, you know, when Ernie Ladd used to use the big taped up thumb and give him the big thumb in the throat. And or when I was a heel, you know, every little, I don't know who did I see. I didn't use no tape though, but the Crazy Luke did. But I just give them the thumb jab. I guess that's the proper way. You grab them in the head and you give them the thumb jab to the throat, and they sell it.
Right.
Especially as a heel, you get heat because you're not supposed to do it. It's an illegal move. You just during the heat. So, but when I had turned babyface for a while in Memphis, believe it or not, they had that Lauren Davenport, and she had the man of the 90s. Then she brought me. She brought and that's on some. If you ever get a chance, I think it's on the YouTube. But then they actually turned me babyface. I couldn't believe that they was all cheering. But I would do that and grab them and ask the people, like, what about it? You know, about a ha. Jamie would add all that up. About a ha. And then it just so it's funny how something just develops, and how you want me to give them the habba-da-ha, the sabba-da-ha, you know. But as I was a babyface, when a heel turns babyface, right, he does the same stuff, right? You know, you don't stop.
I'm just pretty sure, though. As I'm laughing my ass off right now, I'm just pretty sure I have taken that more than once. The ha. And fuck sold it like a motherfucker, like I had been hit with a goddamn sledgehammer.
You have and that's what makes it. Only the people who sell it good. Exactly. Brian, I'm trying to think, but that's all part of them, you know, getting back. Raven, he does one. If you would call him up now and say, "Give me a Tony Falk." How about I'm Tony Falk.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Yeah,
that's like I said, when we started this thing off, man. When we started this thing off, I said there's two people that are the most impersonated: Tommy Rich and his voice, and a lot of people can do that, and then the Tony Falk voice. But there's not too many people that can do the Tony Falk voice that know the words to say. With Tommy Rich, you can say anything. You can say
you know, that kind of thing.
You know, hey, it's Tommy Rich. I'm going across the street over here and look at this truck and this beautiful girl. That sounds like Tommy Rich, but
that sounds like Tommy Rich.
It would be different.
You could read off
from Paducah, Kentucky, and I gotta have the hum and the hum. You want me to? Yeah, I gotta have all that. And then your son, my God, is a spitting image. Getting finishes from him, talking over spots. I feel like I'm looking at you, and yeah, man. But seriously, this has been freaking incredible, Tony. I'm so glad you've come on this show. This is great, man. And
well, listen,
we can do two-parter, Jenny, right?
Yeah.
Well, you two. I want to tell you now, I haven't done any of these. I've been asked for several. I did the one for Randy Hales, but it was pre-recorded for Wolfie D. Not Wolfie D, Brian when he passed, and one for Tracy when he passed. So only those tribute shows. So as far as this is a first, but both of you have been so good and made me feel relaxed. I tell you, who knows what I might start doing more.
Well,
I can definitely, y'all will be the first, but because you made me feel so good here today. And we definitely do a 2-parter if that's what it's going to be.
Hell yeah, man! There's so much more we can talk about, Tony. I mean,
yeah,
we just had such a history, and you just in general, like I said from the start, man. Even though you think you don't, you've done it 100 times of telling me a date or this happened on this date.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I could do that, but it's kind of
guarantee you, this show is going to be listened to. Like in our top, what do you think, Jimmy?
Oh, easily top 5. I mean, Jamie's going to be hard to beat, but
yeah,
honestly, this is what I want to do. I want to take this opportunity right now too for any fans out there that's listening to this, and you have been a wrestling fan over the years. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting professional wrestling. I've loved it my whole life. I still love it. I don't look at today's product much, but I go to these shows like I went with my son LT to these locals, and I see the fans. That's why I go, because some of the old fans, like last night, there were some fans up there that had been going to wrestling for 20 years around these in Middle Tennessee. A couple of them come up to say hi to me. I know I've seen them for the last 20 years, but and I look forward to seeing them. But it makes me feel good when they come up and say hello or say like one guy last night. He said, Tony, you had your first match. He had his first match pointing to Jeff Jarrett against you. So there we are in the same building, and that was 30-something years ago in 1986 when he had his first match. But so I'm going to thank all the listeners out there that's been a fan of professional wrestling here, and thank you for loving what we did and supporting us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I couldn't endorse that.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, you've been my number 1 guest, and I even bugged LT, and he kayfabed me a few times on the Facebook Messenger. We'll put that out there.
Oh yeah.
But
Wolfie cornered me. Wolfie got me up in that Portland show. Yeah,
I was bugging him about it, though. I was bugging him.
All right. Well, now we can say in 2023 it happened. It's happening. It's a done
Hallelujah.
deal.
Hallelujah. Yes, thank you so much. Take us out.
Wish y'all the
Tony, I love you, man, and thank you for coming on. Seriously, the memories, man, I cannot replace or thank you enough. The things you taught me, we didn't talk a lot about that, but hell, me and you've worked a bazillion times, and always was a learning experience, man, and I appreciate everything you've ever done for me, including driving me when some people might have thrown me out of the car. And, so at any rate, Tony, man, I'm going to have you back. If you'll be back, I'll have you back. And I think the people you're going to see, we're going to let you know what the numbers are.
It's going to blow up.
But I can guarantee you it's going to blow up, man, because you came on here and got straight and we had fun, man. And
absolutely,
man, that's what it's all about.
Nobody to knock nobody. I'm not trying to, that's not what me and Jimmy do. We just want to talk and have fun, man. But I feel like
keep up the good work.
I feel like we just got in the car and drove to Paducah, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Took you home, Tony Falk, and I love you to death. You and LT, I love you. Your kid, LT Falk, he's a great wrestler. And you're a great wrestler, Tony Falk, and I love you so much.
Thank you, my brother. And it was real nice, and I'm glad I got to do it now. And when you're ready to do the next one, just hit me up, brother.
We'll
Absolutely.
Get it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love you, Tony Falk, and the people love you. And thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And Jimmy, what are we coming back with? Current affairs, or what are you going to ask me? Questions later, or what?
No, you're going to be happy. It's Ask Wolfie D Anything.
Ask Wolfie D Anything. All right. We'll be back, guys. This has been awesome. Thanks.
DJ, hit the music.
Ask Wolfie anything, whoa. 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 Ask Wolfie anything, whoa.
All right, we are back with Ask Wolfie Anything. And y'all, when I put this out, y'all really gave us something here. Now, we used to make these full shows, but in the essence of giving Wolfie D a break on current affairs, Ask Wolfie D Anything has been put in its place, randomly. So, that being said, that we may have Ask Wolfie D for the next 25 shows because y'all really responded. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get through these here best way we can, and we're going to break them down show by show here. But so the first one, I think this is a great question, actually, and I would love to know this answer. And the funny thing is our next guest may be able to help you with this, but with staying in kayfabe here, Richard Westbrook from Facebook asks, are you working on any new music, Wolfie D?
N-O. I know who that is. I've talked to him a few times. He actually does some rapping up around Louisville, I think is where he's from.
Okay.
And I think King Cold, I think people can look him up, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
I did a logo for him once, and it was another thing. I don't know him personally, but we've spoken, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, the answer to that's no. I had too much other stuff happening.
Right. You got a podcast, you got other things you're dealing with in real life.
Every fucking day.
Yeah. Doctor visits. Maybe they can put a booth at the doctor, and be like,
there you go.
Yo, I've got a stent in my heart. I don't. Anyway.
I got a stent in my heart.
Yeah.
My achy, breaky heart. Anyway.
Let's put a pin in that one. I'm not giving up on that. I'm a musician, as everyone knows. If Richard Westbrook works in the music industry, which is awesome, we'll get with him, and we'll maybe get with our next guest on the next show, Ryan Von Rocket, by the way. Let's go ahead and announce we're getting Ryan Von Rocket on the next episode. Yeah. And maybe we'll do a collab. I'm a bass player. I know, we'll make it happen. Yeah. But anyway, so right now it's a no, but we're going to put a pin in that because, Cap for Your Dome 2 may come out any day now. So, okay. Well, it wouldn't be a Ask Wolfie D Anything if we didn't have a question from the main man himself. Guess who it is?
Bob Daniels.
You damn Skippy. And you know what? Bob has always got a good one. And this one actually, it might touch your heart a little bit too. I know this episode's kind of been, an emotional one, especially from things that Tony said, the Jay Briscoe intro, everything kind of been a little emotional. So Bob says this, Brian Christopher's birthday recently. What is your most memorable match with him and why?
Match.
Yeah.
We had me and Brian always worked good against each other. I assume that's where we're going, against each other.
Well, you tagged with him, right, too?
Yeah,
so
good matches there, too. But no, I like to work against Brian. But I think around the Power Pro stuff, me and him had a little Loser Leave Town and stuff there at the fairgrounds. And those are pretty good matches and pretty good little angles we had right there. Even though the stage, they drew, you know what I mean? But not like, it wasn't like televised shit,
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I'd say that probably those matches right there. And I'd probably not, if I had to say a specific one, the last where he beats me, Loser Leave Town.
At the Crossfire? You're talking about? Yeah, that was a great match. Actually, a very good match. So what's funny is Bob also asked me a question, if you're okay with doing an Ask Jimmy Anything.
Please, yes. Ask Jimmy anything.
Well, his wasn't very far off the topic, but he says, what is your favorite Wolfie D match? And so this is a good question, Bob, because it really made me think, because actually I do have quite a few actually that I want to say. Now, this is funny because you actually, I would say this one is my favorite, is the Rock and Roll and the Texas Death. And I think y'all really showed that you belong in that next level in that match, with that team. Yeah, man, definitely. My second favorite is actually a squash match, but it showed y'all on a level that y'all were so good that you could do a squash match, if that makes you like, maybe some people were like, why aren't they getting squashed versus is the Al Brown, Sonny Rogers on the WWE Raw. I think y'all were so quick and concise. And they were perfect, because I know you said you had worked with some guys that you had to shoot with in Memphis.
Yeah.
some carpenters or not carpenters in Memphis. But either way, these guys, Al Brown, Sonny Rogers, seasoned vets as far as being, underneath guys. And y'all really showed they let you show out, and it also allowed you to really show what you guys could do on a big level. And to me, those are my two favorite. I do love the last match you did with Brian Christopher on Crossfire. We watched that match. I thought that was a really good Loser Leaves Town match. That was great as far as a Wolfie D match goes or whatever. But, as far as it goes there, I think that my main favorite, if I had a gun to my head, it would be the Rock and Roll Texas Death for sure. So
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of like everybody's favorite, but there's a reason, so.
Hey, Bob, what is your favorite Wolfie D match?
That's a good, hey, Bob. Hey, put that in the message. Yeah, absolutely. Bob, let us know, bro. We got to hear that one. All right, so the last one of the day this was kind of interesting. I don't know how you're going to answer this one. This was from Captain K5, and it says favorite JCI story that might have been boring at the time, but can laugh about it now. Is there something that was just like
that was boring at the time?
Yeah,
nothing's boring when you're around him. It may be annoying, but boring is probably not the word to use of any situation that involves him.
Okay, so annoying.
Something that wasn't that big of a deal, or something maybe just
sure.
Oh man. I guess this would be that it was boring at the time, but at the same time, it was just how we lived everyday life. And I think I've told part of this, but if you really think about it, we were just driving down the road hundreds of miles. And, if it rained, I had to scoot over in that big thing, get next to him like a little couple. That bench seat, just going down the road. And then people, when they pass us in that car.
Oh, my God. I can't imagine.
They see us with our crazy haircuts sitting all up on each other. That's so I didn't get soaking wet from the rain leaking through the roof of the Thunderbird. So that's, when you think about it, that's kind of funny. And then we did get pulled over in that situation in Jackson.
I wouldn't drive that thing to Humboldt, or what is it?
Wouldn't drive from Jackson. I wouldn't drive from Jackson to Humboldt for $40 fucking boys. Yeah.
So, did you ever? Let's talk about the car for just a second. Did you ever say to Jamie, "We got to get rid of this, man. This thing is just too much problems," or you just knew that was? Yeah,
I didn't have no car. That was
right.
And, at that time, and that was right when we first started. I didn't have a vehicle or anything, so we were just glad to the town. He borrowed it from his mom's boyfriend at the time.
Okay,
so it wasn't really his even. It was that. So we was trucking around in his mom's boyfriend's beat down Thunderbird.
And as he says at that time, he's like, "Let me get that thing from you."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I can see, because I remember my buddy had a car that he actually would take the key out of the ignition. It was a stick, and he had to take the key out of the ignition, stick it back in. He would drift the car for a while and then start it back because it would die. And but the momentum in neutral would keep it going. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to die in this car one day. And yeah, so I can imagine. I mean, everybody's been in a shitbox car before, but at the same time, it's like, this is our only vehicle. We've got to take care of it,
Yeah.
So.
And the only thing, man, really, it broke down once, I think, honestly. It just blew up at the end.
Yeah.
It was tires. We were putting retreads on it.
Right.
Trying to do miles on retreads. We were having blowouts all the time. So if we could have, saved up the money and bought it some new tires, but that never.
Right. That never came to mind. That's hilarious. Oh my God. Well, yeah, why would you think to do that? How much would that's still a lot of money, even back then, man. That would have been a lot of money for sure.
Tires, something like that, but probably not. It probably wouldn't have been that bad, would it? $200 maybe back then.
Right. But you didn't think of that, I guess, right?
On pot a week, we could have.
Right. Well, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Anyway, well, that's pretty much it for Ask Wolfie D Anything and the Tony Falk episode. You know, I just want to say this one more time, and I said it earlier. Thank you for getting him on the show, dude. Really, you know.
You did a lot too. I just happened to run into him a couple of times and
put the heat on him a little, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is I had his home phone number forever, and I was texting the crap out of that thing. And that thing was dead as Kelsey's nuts, man. That thing, nobody was answering that. He said he had it disconnected, and I got to give Wayne Hackney Jr. some credit here. He gave me his cell phone number. I don't know why I didn't just ask you, but long story short, Wayne Hackney, he sent it to me, and I got Tony's number.
I think I have the wrong number.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, we got Tony on the show. We're going to have him back because we just scratched the surface with him. Tony, as y'all can hear, Tony is a show into himself. Honestly, I'm
not sure. We might have to get LT to help him, but have him do a watch along with us would probably be gold.
That would be incredible. That would be incredible. Yeah, that'll happen. And you know what's funny is I've been talking to Brian Hardison from Brian Turner's VHS Network. We're going to start doing some collabs, man. So coming up soon, you'll be hearing some watch-alongs involving his channel with Wolfie D. So we've got some stuff planned in the pipeline. Definitely keep an eye out. But we're going to be doing some cool stuff because he's got access to so much cool stuff that really nobody's seen because they've seen you in WWE, USWA. They've seen you in and all these others, but really the deep cuts of you and the Music City and all that stuff. It's going to be fun, man. I've got some things planned. I hadn't even told you about it, but it just brought that to mind. So that's coming up soon. But anyway, on down the line. But thank you all for listening. Go ahead and take us out, brother Wolfie D.
All right, y'all. We appreciate it, and it's been fun. And we're going to go and do something else for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thanks for listening.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jarrett, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling. Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at WarrenWolf13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome.
And here we go, the original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth, still livin' in color, from rush your mother, utilize a hubcap, unlike any other. Back in the day, I was N-O-D, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3, in case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D, been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip hop. Been doing it like this since '92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome. You got a cap for your dome. You got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.